Hey, it's King McKay. Game of Thrones just released a new trailer for Season 5. For this video, I will go through each house and what changes or events we see from the trailer that has happened to them. Let's start with the fan favorite, House Stark. From the previous trailer, we saw that Arya was outside the House of Black and White. If you don't know what it is, the show hasn't really covered that yet, so don't worry. If you want a full video explaining what the House of Black and White is and the traditions and what Arya is doing there, then you can comment below and I'll make that video later on at some point. So from this scene, we can see that Arya is in a brick room, which is similar to Arya's room in the House of Black and White from the books. So Arya is looking over at the coin that Jaqen H'ghar gave him in Season 3, I believe. So this seems like a foreshadowing for Jaqen H'ghar to be returned this season, which I believe he will, according to the sources that I found out online. So Jaqen H'ghar could replace the kindly man from the books, which is what the show normally does. They normally take like characters that they haven't put in yet and just replace their storyline with characters that have already cast and stuff like that, just to carry on those kind of themes and that background that people already know from previous seasons. So they may do that for Jaqen H'ghar, or they could integrate him as a new presence that we don't know about yet in the books, and it would be quite interesting to see what he has as an impact on Arya's storyline. The only really bad thing about Arya is that there's not much of her in this trailer, so we don't know what she's going to be specifically getting into within the House of Black and White. I thought they might show some of her training if she does that, or something like that, but no, they just kind of showed the kind of beginning stages. I really hope that she develops more into the characters and catches up to the book this season, rather than just like drag it out as there's really hardly much of her there. I like to see a lot of content for Arya, because Arya styling is really awesome right now, and I kind of want to see where she's heading. So obviously Sansa has a lot happening this season, and it's going to be really interesting because she's caught up to the books, so all the material we'll see on the show, hopefully, will be uncharted territory for us, and it's going to be really awesome for us, the book readers, and just show watchers to see what happens with her story and her character. So what we saw from the first trailer is that Sansa and Peter Baelish were travelling around the Vale, trying to convert the Lords and stuff like that to his cause, which is going to be a pretty interesting storyline. But this second trailer just released a whole bunch of stuff that leads me to believe there's a huge amount of content that we really didn't see coming this season. So it looks like Sansa and Peter Baelish are both heading to Winterfell. I believe he could be trying to insert Sansa's claim to Winterfell and the whole region or something like that, or it could be something to do with just Sansa wanting to go there for some reason. I'm not entirely sure, but it'd be kind of interesting to see how that entire plays out. I'm sure that Bruce Bonham just won't roll over and let him take Winterfell, especially because he doesn't really have many forces with him, apart from the Vale forces, which are still pretty thin at this stage. The first clue that leads me to believe that Sansa will be going to Winterfell is that scene when Sansa is standing against the hillside. If you compare that scene to the very first episode when Ned Stark is beheading the deserter from the Night's Watch, you can compare the hillside in the scenario and it looks exactly the same as the scenario outside of Winterfell, which is a very big clue to me that they will be heading there. Plus there's a few other ones I'll go through right now. So you can see right here that the shield of the riders going into this castle have the Erin's symbol on it, which means that it's probably be travelling with Sansa and Peter Baelish. You don't know this is Winterfell, but it looks very similar to Winterfell, and if you look really carefully at this flag up in the corner that has like this red and blue, which is the same as the Bolton flag, which was pointed out in Red Team Review's video, which he did for the breakdown, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty neat, fine, if you think about it, and it's pretty big lead that they're probably going to Winterfell, either to confront the Boltons about taking Sansa's claim to Winterfell, or some other unknown reason that has something to do with Peter Baelish's huge plan about dominating the entire world. So this other scene here, we see Sansa lighting a candle and holding it, so it could be that this is underneath the crypts in Winterfell, and she could be honouring Ned Stark after she dies. It's a possibility, we don't know where it would lead, but this is also another small indication that she could be going to Winterfell. There were a few other minor things I picked up from the trailer, but I won't go through them because this video will get way too long. So I'm just going to move on to the next person in the Stark family, or could be the Stark family, Jon Snow. So what I can see, a lot of the Jon Snow stuff is stuff we've already seen in the first trailer, but there's a few extra things about him with Stannis Baratheon, which means they're probably going to have a lot of them this season, just them interacting and developing their characters and see what they can use. Mostly it'll be probably Stannis trying to see how he can use Jon Snow to further his cause. Probably either hopefully try and make him like the heir to Winterfell, because everyone thinks the other Starks are dead, so he could be claimed, like, because a king can make a bastard, no longer legitimize a bastard, which like they did to Ramsay, he might be able to try and legitimize Jon Snow and make him a claim to Winterfell. Or he could try and make him, the new head of the Night's Watch, which will be kind of interesting to see how that develops. He will definitely try to use Jon Snow. If he doesn't, at least Melisandre will, so it'd be really nice to see how closely they follow the books on this whole thing or not. So I feel like this season, Jon Snow is going to be like the ambassador for the wildlings to try and get them integrated within the Night's Watch, or just, Westeros' people, because they kind of need their help, and they can obviously see him trying to convince Stannis to let them be part of the army. I don't think he'll be that successful, but if he has some own ability and power and influence in the Night's Watch, he may be able to get them integrated into the Night's Watch. We'll give them the men they need, one less enemy, plus something to help them against the White Walkers if they attack. That brings me to this next scene. So when I first watched this scene, I originally thought it would have been like a wildling or some other kind of hand that was busting through, but then when I slowed it down and paused it, I could see that the hand was quite clearly black, which kind of indicates it's a White Walker because it's dead, which is going to be pretty interesting. I didn't think that would have a full-scale massive fight yet between the White Walkers and the wildlings and Night's Watch, but it would be really cool. That would be an amazing thing to end off, like a huge big battle scene in episode 9 or episode 10, one of those things between the White Walkers and the Night's Watch and wildlings. It'd be quite an epic battle. It'd be a cool way to wrap up that whole season and move on to this whole new fantasy age that they're going to bring in with the White Walkers coming in. So most of the other footage is pretty much stuff that we've already seen in the first trailer, plus it's pretty fast and motion blurry, so it's pretty hard to distinguish any specific stuff that will give us huge hints of what they're going to be doing. So just going to be more surprised for what's going to be happening up there during the show, which is fine by me. I don't like everything being ruined, but I still like to have those really nice hype moments where they give you some sort of insight, like a little clue that would throw you off in this whole different way that you didn't think before. So now we move on to House Baratheon, which is pretty much just Stannis. And unfortunately, there's not much going on, considering the two other brothers are dead, and he's kind of the only main character. But Stannis is quite interesting this season. He kind of, he was kind of sitting around doing nothing, planning, fucking the Red Woman, those kind of things. So it wasn't really much of his stuff happening. So I feel like there's going to be a lot more of Stannis' character's development and a lot more action from him. Like, I believe he may be heading to Winterfell as well, because we're going to have Peter Baelish there with Sansa, we'll have the Boltons who are heading there in the end of the season, and Stannis, if he's going to have any kind of claim to the Iron Throne, has to move in as well, because otherwise he'll just seem like that guy on the wall that no one cares about, and just end up dying to the White Walkers if he doesn't try something now. The only other really scene I picked up of Stannis was his wife on the ground, which could be, replacing her storyline with a different character that was like that, but I don't know. Maybe it could be to do with someone they're like burning or executing, because, the Melisandre does all the time. I don't know, but it doesn't look good for her. Just saying that. It could do something with the end of the last book. No spoilers there at all. Huge drop, so if you guys are book readers, you can talk about that, please use spoiler tags, which is like a whole bunch of spaces with spoiler at the top, so people have to click read more to be able to see more, unless they're on a mobile phone. So that's the only interesting thing I kind of saw from Stannis Baratheon side, apart from that first bit, so hopefully we can see a lot more of him throughout the season if it's not just in the trailer. Now we move on to House Lannister. So a lot of things have been happening for House Lannister this season. A lot between Cersei and the High Sparrow. A lot of stuff will be happening with Tyrion. Obviously, Tyrion will be going to Daenerys, because from the first trailer, plus that whole scene of Drogon flying above the ship. That was epic, because we know how much Tyrion loves dragons, if you've read the book, and so this is going to be an awesome moment for him. It's obviously going to develop his character a lot more further than they have in the books, and it's going to be a lot more probably personal conversation and personal stuff between him and Daenerys before some, the thing at the end of the book happened. I won't spoil it, but something big happens at the end of the books with Daenerys. She doesn't just sit around and read the entire series like she did last time, but, so a lot more happens with her, and I feel like Tyrion's going to get to know her more development between their characters before this whole big new stuff moves in, so, hopefully that's going to be pretty cool as well. Other than that, there wasn't much other Tyrion stuff, but it's still pretty cool. That whole poster, I thought it was just going to be a visual effect. I didn't actually think there would be like an actual thing in the show, but obviously that poster was more true than it seemed, and you actually see a dragon on the boat, which is going to be really awesome. I want to see it like really epic, like that face reaction, like, oh my god, it's a dragon. That's amazing. Hope to see more of that this season. For the sake of spoilers, I won't go too much about what's going to be happening between the High Sparrow and Cersei, but obviously there's going to be a lot of tension there with the throne and the people rebelling and all that kind of stuff, so it's going to be really interesting how we see Cersei react and try to control the situation of the poor and stuff like that getting out of control because of the war and the poverty, and especially with House Tyrell. They're going to try and impose their position, hopefully become more powerful, especially with Marjorie, and as we can see here from this thing, I don't think Cersei's going to be too happy with him marrying Tommen because, what happened to the last person she tried to marry. But hopefully it doesn't end as tragically. I like Tom, and I don't want him to die. He seems like a person who would be a decent king if he doesn't get manipulated too much by Cersei, which probably will happen. So hopefully they can keep control. Maybe Marjorie may be able to mediate that. It'd be pretty cool. But I feel like she's going to have a really hard job on her hand. There's a few other houses I could go into with some of the stuff we found like, but they've kind of been covered underneath the other houses because, you know, they interact with them mostly. So I'm just going to go to the big major one, House Targaryen. Now, there are a few big things that happened to Daenerys throughout the trailer. They was her talking about the wheel thing. They kind of touched on the first one a bit, but I just want to kind of explain what they meant. So most people thought they were talking about the cycle of Marine and Slavers Bay, and how that kind of stuff happened, how the society worked, and how she kind of just broke it instead of just going with the flow with it and doing that kind of stuff. But it was actually talking about the Game of Thrones and how houses come on top and they go under and they get crushed and that kind of thing, which is pretty true as well. That's kind of how the game works. And she's talking about how she's going to come in and break the whole thing, which she could really do. She's kind of like the wild card, the card that no one really expects, and she can just come in from the side and ruin the entire thing for everyone else. And she could well become the Queen of Westeros. There was one scene when he was talking about how she's not a butcher, but she kind of really, she killed a lot of people. Come on, be serious. She's pretty dangerous and pretty ruthless considering it. But the other major scene was the dragon scene, which is an amazing scene. Like, that was really awesome. Like, her just looking up and Drogon's right there and it flies down. I feel like that'd be an amazing way to end the series, but if Drogon kind of like flew away and then the camera forced against Drogon and he like blew fire into the camera, that'd be a cool way to end the entire season. But it was really cool. It was quite cool. Obviously Daenerys is going to be a lot more this season with the dragons, with Tyrion and a whole bunch of other people, so it's going to be quite more acceleration this season hopefully than it was last season, and that's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, I'm aware this is going to be really long, so I'm going to cut it right there. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for all the support you've given me here over the time. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, comment below and like the video. And if you want to see more from me, then you can subscribe. I post videos of Game of Thrones updates coming up. I've got some whole bunch of giveaways and things to do later on as season 5 comes up. So stick around. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you guys next time.